everybody, Tolga Müller here from Constellation Research with my fabulous co-host Liz Miller. Hey Liz, how's it going?
Oh, it's going, Holger. We're heading into the holidays, right? We're heading into no other way. We're going, oh my God, we're never going to get this right. We're never going to get this right.
Other hand, no, other side.
I'm not playing this game. Because way too much has been happening and we got to hit the news. Holger, what's been happening in your world? Where you been?
Last week was a super efficient double event in the Future of Work world. It was first UKG's term, for the first time the United Conference of Ultimate Software and Kronos in the same place, 4,500 people. Some people have them as the fifth largest enterprise software vendor now, UKG, with like whatever revenue, whatever people who like bean counters do. It was good to see, all unified. They have an ambitious product development agenda ahead for them in 2023, consolidating products, which we always ask them, would you do this, would you not do this? Now they're doing this, very good. On a modern platform, on Google Cloud, with tons of AI, very interesting capabilities coming out of UKG. Next year is going to be a really, really, really big year. And was super efficient because the next event was also in Las Vegas and also in the Future of Workspace with Ceridian, who for the first time had an event again since 2019. They went in 3-year hiatus, and they've done a lot of things there in terms of bringing the product forward. There's a new UX with an employee experience hub. But the most interesting thing for me, because I like the hard stuff, right? Payroll, workforce management, which they do, by the way, really, really well. They acquired during the COVID pandemic lots of these payroll aggregators, and they now have 56 payroll capabilities for 56 countries under their belt, which is very, very close to 58, which is SAP's record for this. So, and they're continuously building new payrolls now, moving them over to the native Ceridian platform, which, by the way, runs on the Azure side. So they're adding Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Mexico is going to come soon. So if you want to see a global payroll in one part, this is an up-and-coming vendor. And generally, Ceridian is one of the best-kept secrets to bring workforce management, payroll, talent management all together on one platform, which nobody else has at the moment natively from the same capabilities. Yeah.
Well, that sounds fun. You were busy.
Yeah, but it was efficient, so right. So just take an Uber ride for 10 minutes up the strip at a no rush hour.
There you go. If everyone could just go ahead and map everything like a Disney journey for all of our analyst summits, that'd be great. Well, I actually was up in the Bay and got to take a little trek over to Santa Cruz with the folks at Sugar CRM. You know, it's interesting. Sugar. It was a really nice look into the mid-market, especially as you see all the complexity and all kind of that growth. And, you know, I think a lot of, especially, you know, software players and a lot of businesses during the pandemic in the mid-market had to really deal with like this just really wacky chaos and complexity. And how do I go digital? How do I bring everything in one place? And it was really nice to hear from a lot of Sugar's customers about just how easy it was to actually implement things like AI, to get more of out of their data, to get more out of their operations. You know, this is definitely a situation. I mean, Sugar's whole selling proposition is to let the platform do the work, and that's what they're really trying to do. So it was great to hear from those folks. Got to see, you know, it was like analyst summer camp again, which was always great. But if there is something that has been dominating the news for the past couple of weeks, it has to be that little blue bird known as Twitter. Wow. It went from Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter. We're super, super excited. Elon Musk brought a sink into Twitter's HQ. What in the world is happening here? And then it has just kind of exploded from there. We just have this situation where I think there are a lot of different forces at play. I think a lot of people can talk about like operationally what's happening under Musk with Twitter, people getting fired through emails, like weird, you know, like there's a lot of operational and cultural things. Okay, that's the operational and cultural part. The thing that I've been tracking and that I think is the bigger challenge and the biggest challenge that they're facing right now is what has happened with advertisers. You're talking about a business where 80% of your revenue comes from advertising. And of that revenue, anywhere between 40 and 45%, upwards of 50% used to come from upfronts that were kind of contracts agreed upon before even the beginning of a calendar year, that advertisers are saying, hey, listen, this is going to be my contract for the year. Right. And the minute the news broke about Elon Musk buying Twitter, the upfronts just started to decline. So even walking into the acquisition, you had a lot of brands saying, hey, we're going to hit pause until we find out what's going on. And what I'm hearing from brands and all of the marketers that I'm talking to, and even the agencies, there is a lot of hope for Twitter. No one wants to see Twitter fail. No one wants to see Elon Musk fail. That narrative of like, this is the activists coming for him is a bit more headline grabby than what's actually happening. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of worry. And I think every time a rash decision is made to do things like to gauge employee success and to engage in developer success by how many lines of code generated in the last year probably is not the way to plan for innovation. So things like that are getting people really worried. Things like
PayPal, right? So I mean, this is the first software business since 20 years. So
and I think that there was an assumption that was made there, right? Of like, oh, I knew what to do at PayPal, so therefore I must know what to do here. Right. And for all the ways that Elon Musk is a brilliant person, he's just not really being brilliant at Twitter right now, and that's the big concern. So you're starting to hear, the advertisers are not getting appeased. You now have a very serious situation where all of the adults in the compliance and the content and the privacy and the identity and the moderation space, they have now all left, either because they were C-level employees and they got out very early from the vesting, or quite frankly, they do not feel that they are going to be able to do their jobs effectively. So you had kind of the steadying voices in the room as he's out there stirring chaos. They've now all left. Right before things like FTC reporting, right before a lot of quarterly reports are due. So this is a very, very, it's a contentious situation. It's a volatile situation, but it's not one any of us want to see, right?
But the funny thing to me is, right, so, I think many people see it as a convenient way because they have to shrink their advertising budgets anyway. So there's a great excuse. We don't know where Twitter is going. We're going to take that away first. So I think that's kind of like self-serving, unfortunate timing for Musk for Twitter. I think that Twitter was overstaffed generally, right? So like looking at the features, the inconsistencies in the platforms. I mean, Android tablet is different code than Android phone. I understand the iOS thing has a different line, but and no functional creativity how to move this forward and make this better. So I think anybody coming in, and me speaking as a product development leader, you have to blow things up. If you have to blow them up to Musk level, very different question, right? And now back to marketers, right? Back to you. Either the marketing effectiveness of a Twitter ad is there, and then I'm not getting rid of it, or it wasn't there, and I was just spraying all over, and I can make without it. Right? That's the rationale I don't understand. Because none of this coverage saying, well, how effective are Twitter ads compared to Facebook ads?
So the reality was, and I think that, so there are two things at play here, right? There were problems with Twitter and at Twitter long before Elon Musk even decided that he was going to buy Twitter. Right. He is not the problem of where we got to with Twitter. Right. And I think a lot of the things that you pointed out, the operations, kind of the lack of that rigor, it was this kind of idea of like, let's just throw a lot of things at the platform and see what works. Yep. That did not work. And so advertisers have long been questioning Twitter investments because they weren't getting answers. They weren't getting answers as to reporting. They had a lot of problems with reporting and fraudulent reporting, quite frankly, leading up to this. So I think a lot of people were hopeful about where Musk could take things, but it doesn't help when you've posted things like, I hate advertising on Twitter. It doesn't help when you're the person who says that you're going to lead everything and you're going to blow everything up and you hate advertising and you don't understand why anyone's complaining about things, because the number one thing that advertisers have been asking for are, what are you going to do about my ad being adjacent to content that I don't want my ad being next to? And the answer should never have been, that doesn't matter, right? Or, we're doing stuff, right? People were asking real questions and advertisers were asking real questions and they weren't getting real answers. Right. I think that from the perspective of what has been happening as a business, I agree. There was a whole lot of bloat there. I mean, there was a lot of nonsense going on, but I think I think anyone who's run a business can probably look at the right way versus the wrong way to make some of these decisions. Right. But I'm hoping that he does the thing that makes all brilliant leaders, which is taking a step back and listening. Yep.
So just interesting, right? Jack Dorsey, as the co-founder, right? He apologized a week ago that he grew the company too quickly. And this
he also has a vested interest in Twitter possibly failing. So let's also be very honest.
That's true, but he was also, for longest time, Twitter had no ads because Dorsey thought ads are the end of Twitter. And now it's like at least bringing in 5 billion or so in the
80%. 80% of the revenue, right? Yeah. You're like, come on.
So the thing I never got is like, look, you have this challenge of an in-feed advertisement, right? It's not the static banner. But just in the same town, there's this company used to be called Facebook, right? Which solved this, right? To the happiness of advertisers, right? So
but let's also be honest about that. Yeah. Their big challenge over there is accuracy of reporting and failing numbers, right? So numbers are falling. That number is falling. The algorithm isn't necessarily keeping up with where customers are going and where those brands are going. So you constantly got to innovate on that side, right? It's what you're always talking about. You constantly got to keep that up to date. You constantly got to be moving on it. Neither of those platforms did it. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like, are we still going to be on Twitter by December? Check back here. Well, Holger, I think that wraps us up for our news segment for the day. Listen, we've got a ton of stuff coming up for you guys. We got a wrap up coming from our big event at Constellation CCE, so that's going to be awesome. We've got some great interviews with not only our Supernova Award winners, but some of our panelists and some of our guests at CCE. So hope you guys enjoy that if you weren't able to join us in Half Moon Bay, but we're going to be back here in just a few minutes to say bye.
Number one, many times we think digital transformation is all about tech. Absolutely wrong. Number two, I feel we try to innovate first and then adopt next. It doesn't work. Because by the time we innovate, tweak and build technology, then you put it to operation and say, please use this, it doesn't work. Number three, I think we have to have a focus on value. Whatever is value creation, what we do is we try to build technology and try to reverse fit to create value. It doesn't work. I think in my 2 cents, we have to start with the business, start with the spirit, and really bring the organization together with kind of like art of storytelling. Because I think somebody asked me, what is digital transformation? And my answer is very different. I think it's a spirit, it's a DNA that you have to focus on the art of possible versus art of impossible. Because in large organizations, you always focus on why it does not work.
Yeah,
or will not work. Know is the culture. Yeah, matter. Measure. $1 improvement in operating income through innovation is much more important than shiny technology, no value.
The learning that I think we've all had at ServiceNow, and many of us in the industry have had, is people start with platforms or people start with products. And I think the difference that our founder, Fred, started with was build the platform, but have the product powering the platform, and always think about the universality of the platform. And so what we're seeing in CX and in EX right now is, in the last 90 days, the EX, employee experience story, has changed from one of employee experience to one of shared services and employee productivity. Because everyone's striving to get ready for some rough times ahead. They're like, let's start being more conservative. So we're going in and saying, if you've got already an investment in your HCM, the common pattern we're seeing is, why not connect that to your IT? Why not connect that to legal? Why not connect that to expense reporting, so that from one mobile app, the employee can have everything they need, not a hyperlink with a page with 60 different hyperlinks on it.
That's brutal.
It's really been fun for me because, in the CGO, I have, it's really been a focus around how do we build ecosystems. And so if I look at the big changes that I made since we last met, one was creating our ecosystems and partnership organization. And I've heard a lot of comments about, how do I work with all of these different vendors to bring solutions together. And so we invested heavily in our ecosystem. We renamed it, first of all. It was an alliance management. We eliminated that from our vocabulary because our clients are really looking for us to help them integrate the ecosystem in a way that really delivers outcomes and solutions for them. And it can be really challenging. I mean, there's so many choices, so many partners out there. And so how do we help bring that together? So that's been a huge change. And then, we're digitizing our own sales organization. So
what does that mean?
I know, well, we're figuring it out, but it's really exciting because I think so much of, again, our clients want different things from us, and how they engage with us is completely different. We don't walk the halls anymore. So we do, but we do it also in a very hybrid way. So we're trying to figure out, how do we automate as much of our own process, build AI into our system so we can serve up content to our clients and also to our sales teams. So that's going to be a fun project that we're undertaking this year.
How do you know what customers want?
You got to listen.
Yeah.
You got to walk.
Listen.
You spend time with them. You eat your own cooking. You get to the front lines. You talk to them, whether it's, I don't care what your customer is. I mean, even if it's internal IT, eating your own cooking.
But I have 80 million customers.
Oh, you can get a sample size.
Okay.
I mean, break them down into personas, get out there, sit with them, listen, watch them, do ride-alongs. And I'm not talking about the token 1 hour, hey, shake hands, kiss babies kind of stuff. I'm talking about digging in deep. And then that's got to be more than a one-time event. It's actually got to be something that's sustainable and that you're building that relationship so you have a constant input of customer feedback.
66% growth in the number of developers moving over from Web 2 to Web 3. Very significant. Number of wallet growth month over month is 8% month over month. That's about 1 million new wallets created every month. If I just look at my own business, Unstoppable, where we created digital identity, we're seeing partnerships grow at a 10x pace. 10x. So I believe that the space will continue to have builders that will build during the bear market. And I really see a lot of utility like Hunter's seeing today. A lot of strong use cases in customer experience that we heard about today. A lot of great use cases around data, how you protect your data, how you make sure that data is yours, no one else is selling it. And these use cases, I think, are going to be the core. It's not going to be about the technology, but it's going to be about this utility and these use cases that are going to be disruptive to drive the future.
This postmodern era that we're in, I think, how I would describe
the best CFOs that we work with 1,300 companies in all different parts of the economy. They are what I would call technological storytellers, right? And that sounds weird to people because, right, you know, when you're a CFO, do you want to tell stories? Yeah, the businesses are very, very complex today, and your ability to understand what's happening in your business and convey that to your stakeholders, to your board, to your investors in a way that animates the market and animates support for your business, that is the job of the CFO today, more so than ever. And increasingly, they're technology people. You know, we're in a fog right now, and CFO job is extremely difficult. The CEO job is tough most of the time, but right now they're leaning on the CFO saying, how on earth are we, where are we going? What's going to happen? So the answer really that we see, and companies are investing in technology to do this, they're creating resilience. And, what's going on, Ray, in the business is you used to be about reporting. What's the variance versus the plan and, all that, and that's really complex. But increasingly, there's a realization that the business is driven by different metrics, right? If you go out into a software company, it's all about your leads. It's about the conversion from MQLs to SQLs. This is not financial data. This is operational data. It turns into commercial data. That commercial data then ultimately turns into financial data. So CFOs are realizing this and they're saying, look, if we're going to be resilient, we need to course correct quicker. So we need to know what are the drivers in the business and model that and have responsive capabilities to look at that very quickly.
But yeah, for a lot of people, I mean, we survey 10 million people a year. We survey 200,000 people every single week, ask them 60 questions in 140 countries. So we get this data across all industries around what's going on. Yeah, so we look at a lot of things. What we know is the future of work is not hybrid. The future of work is not quiet quitting. It's not the slogans. We won't be talking about any of those things a year from now. And it will be on to talking about other things a year from now. So, and in terms of what people want, it doesn't matter if you're in Bogota, Colombia, or if you're in Half Moon Bay, you want to be respected by the person that you work for. You want to be communicated with in an honest way by the person that you work for. You want to be treated in a fair and equitable way, and that's the most important of all. If people feel like you're treating some people one way and you're treating a group of people another way, trust just plummets. The other thing is you want to enjoy the people that you work with. Yeah. You don't want to have 5 shots of Red Bull to join your team, Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams. And people, in terms of enjoying who they work with, that's a reflection on management. Yeah. Employees think you're the one who is hiring these people, and what are you doing if they don't have the same kind of values and level of commitment? And people want to be part of a team. So those are 6 things that build up trust. Without trust, there is no engagement, satisfaction. It's on the stage. Trust has been underneath a lot of topics because it's critically important.
So we figured out how to make the front of any computer interactive and how to make the back of it immersive glass. This is just a PowerPoint slide that I'm showing you right now. And if I raise up my hands, what I designed there on PowerPoint can come to life. So any camera and any screen, the front of it, we're able to turn this entire front of the camera into interactive air, and the back of it, we're able to place things there. Obviously, you can see my video placed behind there. Now, this is 2D content. When you run this thing on 3D, it is absolutely magic.
There's a lot of focus on digital, right? How do you enable chat? How do you enable self-service? How do you enable the app via the mobile phone? But, people are not putting as much emphasis on voice, and I think that is actually a little bit of a mistake, because especially when it comes to high-end brands as well, I want someone to speak to. I want a human to have an interaction with. I want someone to give me empathy. I want someone to understand that I'm annoyed at this present moment.
Fix it now.
Fix it now. Yeah. And sometimes it's not enough that I have to wait for the little dots to come back. Like, those dots are just too much. It's too much.
Oh, the dots.
Our customers are looking at how they make it persistent, right? Yes. I think that's a really, personalized is great, but persistent is intelligent, right? And Ray talked about it earlier. I think the beauty of, we talk a lot with our customers about collaborative intelligence, using the beauty of human intelligence and machine intelligence together to create persistent customer experience that can be predictive, right? And you think about this when you think about data, right? You talk about prescriptive analytics, then you talk about predictive analytics. I think predictive CX and persistent CX is where it's going.
Yeah. What does that prove to the market about somebody who's willing to go out there and be frankly off the beaten path enough, be disruptive enough, be different enough, be unabashed enough, be unembarrassed? You know what the word embarrassed means? You know the root of the word embarrassment means literally to bar yourself in? Caring what other people think is a prison. It's in the word embarrassed.
So what most people call a dialogue is actually called waiting to talk. Thinking is the application of a framework or a lens. There's reflexive and reflective. And reflexive is when the doctor does that to you. You have a reflex. That's not thinking. That's called having a reflex. Thinking is reflective. And what's going on today as it relates to dialogue is we're not interested in anything other than spewing our reflexive, already existing opinion at one another. And when you play that out, you have what's happening in America today, which is we will either have civil dialogue or we will have civil war.
Where people are, right? In what channels people are are spending their eyeballs. User acquisition still continues to be, right? How long? Our attention spans are so little because there is so much choice and so much content at this point, and information is flying. So you are meeting people where they are. Can you get them to take an action while you have their attention span of 5 minutes these days? Can you get them to take? And I don't think we've gotten there yet.
That's why our panels are 20 minutes.
The Expedias of the world were struggling. Then the pandemic, everybody became a technology company because of the pandemic. It accelerated, e-commerce, at least 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is. And since then, if you take a look at the quarter over quarter, you'll start to see that since the pandemic, that all of a sudden you start to see a shift where everybody's returning back to the stores. And you start to see that the experiential companies that were poor performing prior to the pandemic are now overperforming or performing really well. And you'll see that a lot of the traditional retailers are struggling now, especially those that have brick and mortar stores, unless you're hot little, companies that have a fast growth. So we've seen a definite shift from share of wallet is what you used to go after before the pandemic, and now, of course, it's a share of experience.
Okay, look, welcome everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be on CRTV again. We're in fact a past guest of CRTV, but the context is quite different because what we're doing now is honouring our recent Supernova Award winners. Heather Dahl from Indicio won in the Digital Safety, Governance and Privacy category. It's one of our hottest categories. Enough said about ethics and privacy. There's a number of ways into this topic. And Heather's innovation around COVID vaccination status, COVID safety, traveller safety, verification using some really topical technology, distinguish her above a really busy field of contestants for the award. So it's great to have Heather on the show and to talk about what she did and to take this opportunity to really drill in. So hi Heather, hope you're well, hope you had a blast last week.
Thank you. It was a tremendous event. Like always, I mean, the best thing is it gives you time to meet peers and colleagues, the Constellation team, and have that space to do some really important thinking.
Oh, cool. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. We think it's a blast. So look, tell us about Indicio. How did it start and what's your journey into this field?
Indicio started because there were a number of us who have been in this space of decentralized identity for years. Just to give you a sense of how many years our team as a whole has a cumulative over 100 years of experience in the space. So we all go back to some of the original projects in this space. And 2.5 years ago, we saw some of the real challenges that organizations and enterprises were having in adopting this idea of decentralized identity, yet they were faced with the changing landscape when it came to digital privacy and safety. But my story and how I got to Indicio starts just over a decade ago. And I worked at a company called Newstar, which provided the ability for the telco industry to offer number portability, specifically in the United States, being able to take your number from one carrier to the other. And we were really diving into research around these massive breaches and compromises like the Sony hack, right? Where that used to be headline news. Sadly, not so much anymore because how ubiquitous these compromises are. And in that work, we were really looking at how can you help mitigate and avoid that massive data breach. And from that came this concept of the zero trust framework, and also the idea of if you never trust and you always verify, do you verify against a centralized database that could be compromised? And so that started the journey for me on a deeply personal level. I was looking at the massive amounts of compromises and breaches and what was happening. And I had a young nephew who at the time was 5, and I was really concerned about his digital future. And the first thing I started doing to help him understand and help the space was write comic books about digital safety and security for him. And what I learned were kids of all ages enjoyed that series called The Cincha. And ultimately, I said, it's one thing to write about this. It's a whole nother thing to go out and build and do and make that impact to bring humanity into our digital lives.
And that's exactly what we're recognizing in the Supernova Awards. People that are really making a difference and they're innovating, they're getting outside of the box with some vision. Let's recap quickly for the viewers who weren't at the award ceremony what the Aruba project was all about, the digital travel card.
I think many of us all know the concept behind COVID credentials and cards and passes. Specifically, in the early days of the pandemic, CETA, which is a technology provider to the global aviation industry. And they have an interesting history because they started out of World War II when it became an idea that we should let airports know when a plane is about to arrive. And so CETA started building the network going back years on how to do that. So they were in a position where passing data was very important. And so now they were faced with a new challenge, health data. And that was very important in order to restart the travel industry. They had been looking at verifiable credentials prior to the pandemic, but there was a sense amongst the CETA team that this use case, this challenge for not only governments, but for airports and the airlines and everyone else involved in that travel ribbon could really help set the stage for innovations beyond the pandemic in creating a foundation of how do we issue, share, and verify data for immediately actionable decisions. And so what we did was with the government of Aruba and CETA and Indicio, we were able to take the proof of COVID test or vaccination information from the state of New York with support from Shatskin Systems in the Bronx, Rio, which is Health Information Exchange, issue that medical information to the traveler in the form of a verifiable credential. And then that traveler shared that information directly with the government of Aruba for verification. The key here was Aruba was the one who decided what the criteria was and whether that data met that criteria, and then made a decision about entry onto the island. They were able to do that without any correlation, and it allowed the traveler to retain and hold their medical information in the traveler to provide the consent to share it.
I love that. I love the stress that you put on Aruba, the relying party, so-called, still maintaining all of their freedom to make decisions about whether to allow somebody in or not. Because one of the scary things about digital credentialing sometimes is that it feels as though somebody else is going to tell you what to do. And it's so good that we're using information to improve decision making and to retain autonomy. Look, it's a really busy field. COVID vaccination, it went crazy. 2 years ago, I saw dozens of standards and cooperatives and initiatives. It seems to me that Indicio has stayed the course and has risen above a really busy area. What do you think has really made the difference to your contribution?
It really gets in the governance. As part of the award that we got was for digital safety, governance, and privacy, and that governance was the key. At the time, a lot of the passes and the credentials, parties had to actually, the verifier or the governments had to rely on a third-party rules engine, registry, allow someone else to make the decision on their behalf. And what that meant was they were beholden to that third party, especially in a situation where the science or the decisions or the policies were changing by the minute and by the hour.
Yeah.
And so what this approach that we took, brought the governance and the decision-making to the verifier, in this case, the government of Aruba, and they had full control and access to make their decisions as they needed to based on their own criteria. And they were not at the whim of what I'll call a centralized, decentralized system. They were not at the whim of an SDK. They had the ability to do what we call ecosystem governance using a machine-readable file in order to do that. And that was really key in those very early days on why this project came to fruition, and I believe why it continues to scale forward into other use cases.
So look, for the viewers, I want to stress that and just leave them with one of the takeaways from this, which is the concept of machine verifiable governance, machine readable governance. Verifiable credentials are all about having machine readable proofs of facts and figures about people. But if you can load that credential with additional machine readable governance, it's fantastic. You get really rich decision making coming out of that. So, well done, Heather and your team. Well done too. I mean, since maybe you were sitting on this news when we saw you last week, but since you won the award and independent from the award, let me assure people, there's been a big announcement as well from Indicio and the Google Cloud. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Absolutely. In fact, it was just 2 days ago that we were able to share the news after I got home from the awards ceremony, and that's that Indicio has a partnership now with Google Cloud. And what it allows Google Cloud customers to do is they can create immediately actionable, verifiable data because they have access now to an open source decentralized identity technology, and that's Indicio proven. It provides all the components that you need to create these type of ecosystems, an open source based issuer, holder, verifier, opportunities to create your own ledger or use existing ledgers, and all the cred def schemas, and all that is available to Google Cloud customers. So it can be easily integrated into their existing cloud infrastructure today. What we are very excited about is it's often been very difficult or challenging because you'll get bits or parts of pieces of these systems from a variety of vendors. Some of them, as I said, are not necessarily fully decentralized. You have a centralized provider of decentralized credentials, or you have proprietary lock-in platforms. And when you're dealing with large ecosystems with many multiple parties who want to exchange this verifiable data, having that type of ecosystem built upon open source is really important. And so this allows Google Cloud customers to have that immediate access today through this partnership.
Oh, it's stunning. It's fantastic. It puts, I think, Google in the lead now in verifiable credentials as a service. And ultimately, as you've been saying, this is leading to verifiable data as a service. And that's what I think is the really deep take-home message from this, is that the field is evolving real fast to data and proofs and the sorts of signals that we're going to need in the data economy to make sense of everything, to make data as safe as clean drinking water. So, Heather, well done. I really salute the hard work that you've done. It's been a long way. Thank you for joining us to have another chat about this. People are going to be able to find you on Twitter at Heather C. Dahl. Follow me at Steve Lockstep _Lockstep. There's going to be a lot more material coming out from Constellation around this verifiable credentials infrastructure area, and I'm going to be watching Indicio really closely because you guys are right there in the lead. Thanks heaps.
Thank you for having me today.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I am with Constellation on their marketing team, and I am here with Vijay from Zoho. We're at CCE 2022. How has the conference been for you? What's been a highlight? Tell us about it.
Well, thank you, Hannah. I've been to this conference. It's my second one in a row, and you always manage to attract some good people and have some interesting sessions. So glad to be here and be part of it.
And so tell us a little bit about just what Zoho's doing. I know you mentioned in terms of merging and things like that, you guys have some great things in the pipeline. So just would you mind elaborating on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one area where Zoho is making a mark is in addressing a very broad range of business issues. And what that means is not just people at the face of it looks like, okay, I've got a lot of apps, I've got suites. And that's really not what it is. That's what you see. What really it is that there's a fundamental merging of all these business functions. People don't live in silos anymore. So you have people, I'm an executive, I deal with people issues, I deal with sales issues, I deal with support issues, I deal with customer issues, I deal with communication, I deal with all of that, I deal with training. And so I don't want to be locked into different systems and form there and look at their processes. I like technology to work for me, so I can get all this done without having the complexity of working and learning multiple paradigms. I think that's one of the things we're doing. We start on the base of multiple applications, and now we're bringing this together with a single experience. So it doesn't matter if you're a customer person or if you're an executive or you're a support person, all these things sort of merge together.
Yes, and which coincides with the theme of efficiency, which I think we've seen throughout the conference is what people are looking for and what they're investing in with their budgets. Just different technologies like that. So I'm sure you guys will go really far with that. I know you also mentioned you're doing a lot of philanthropic work. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
It's not something we necessarily advertise, but it comes up a lot because we're sort of known for or recognized for that. I think it's basically a different philosophical approach. For a lot of companies, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it's companies look at, I have a core business, I accomplished that, and I generate enough returns from that to be able to make me, either as a business or as an individual, wealthy from that business to do something for society.
Yeah.
So that's almost a linear kind of way of looking at things.
Yes.
And what we've done is a little bit different. It's built into the business. So for example, let me give you an example.
Okay.
Think of providing equal opportunity in hiring, or equal opportunity for people.
Yeah.
So we built that into our hiring process. We hire people who never had a college degree. And
That's
we
great.
will put them through our program.
Yep.
They'll apprentice with somebody, much like the German apprenticeship model, learn with somebody, and then come back, and all of a sudden this person who would have been completely, usually from the lower strata, economic strata, is now a few years later white collar worker and has transformed not just themselves, their family, their community. So it's built into what we do.
That's so great. And I know it was talked about also during the conference how soft skills are so important in hiring people, and if they don't have a college degree or don't have the opportunity to get a position like you guys are offering, their soft skills can not even be recognized, even though that you can train the technical skills to an extent in the job.
That is an excellent point, because a lot of times what happens in interviews and what cuts a lot of people off is people, the interviewing process is really a certification of how good an interviewer the interviewer is,
right?
As opposed to uncovering how good the candidate is. So something that the candidate might inherently lack, like say great communication skills, all the soft skills you mentioned, can go against them, and often that is tied to upbringing, strata in society, learning, education, all of that stuff, right? So we try to strip that stuff out. And we try to look at people and see what they're capable of doing. In fact, in our operations in India, we even suspended the use of English for certain interviews because we realized that was hampering people. They can always learn the language. We teach them.
Right. Yeah, that's so good.
But it hampers them because they're not expressive, and then you get a different read on the person fundamentally, right?
Wow.
So you're leaving a whole set of people behind who didn't come from that same set of privilege that you and I might have.
Right. That's so good. Wow. Well, clearly Zoho is doing a lot of great things. They are one of our sponsors for CCE this year. We love having their presence every year. Vijay, thank you for your time. And we'll see you in 2023.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Well, Holger, that wraps up episode 46. We're nearing it on 50. We're getting there. We're racing through the end. Jeff, fun?
Yeah, always lots of fun. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you after the holidays, everyone. Or at least after Thanksgiving.
Fix your hair.
See you in a moment.
What are you doing?
Fixing my hair.
What does that mean?
I have some strays. It's gonna only take 15 minutes. I'll be back. Just kidding.
What are we talking about? I guess we have to talk about the implosion of Twitter ads. I've been getting pelted by ads from Scientology for the last 3 days.
I'm getting the same weird app about the death of code and the rise of DevOps on a tomb. And then I get this hairy guy since like 6 weeks. Nothing has changed.
Watch out. Scientology's coming for you, buddy. No, you're going the opposite. I give up. I give up on that virtual hybrid.
Yeah, but
we're both going. Switch the direction. Switch the direction. Trust me. Just switch the. There we go. There we go.
But this is on my left side, and you're on my right side.
I can't explain directions to you, Holger. It's a whole thing.
No, I'm left-right channeled anyway. But I did it right at the beginning. But no, this is wrong. This is here, so it must be here.
It feels so wrong, but it just looks so right when we do it.
You notice if I do this, you could also go to your right. You start. You do the outros, I do the intros.
It's like innies, outies. We're like the belly button of CRTV.
Exactly.
Okay, that's making the blooper reel. Let's be real. Come on.